And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. And on top of this YouTube video, if you'd like additional weather information, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. You point and click anywhere on the map or these tabs here to the American territories. It'll allow you to pull up a forecast with any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories anywhere in the country. It's a good way to check up on families and friends that live in other parts of the country. Quick check here of the lower 48. Severe thunderstorm watch, Oklahoma, Texas. Flood watch, northeast Oklahoma. We have further west freeze watch for areas of Oregon, far northern California. Otherwise, not too much going on in the lower 48. Last evening, Monday evening, if skies were clear in your location and you were in an area where you didn't have any town lights, the northern lights were visible for a brief time, mainly up through about 10 o'clock last night. There was kind of a bit of a surprise, stronger geomagnetic storm, a class 3 geomagnetic storm. It did not last very long, but still, this is the time of year now, through the fall, relatively speaking, comfortable aurora watching weather when we have clear skies because temperatures are not to their cold wintertime levels. Flood watch has been issued for the central panhandle because of an atmospheric river that'll accompany an area of low pressure and a frontal system working its way in through the Gulf tomorrow into Thursday. And by the end of the week, at least astronomically speaking, we have the arrival of fall. The autumnal equinox will occur late Friday evening. And we expect near normal early fall pattern to continue through the end of the month. Here's a quick check of the planetary K index that has to do with the planet's geomagnetic field. And it measures and it's averaged from across the globe, but we can see that spike in the KP index early last evening. And it briefly reached over 6.5, so that's enough to trigger aurora that can even be visible from within the city limits of Anchorage. But this was an early night event, and if you didn't have clear skies and notice it, you would have missed it because things were winding down after 10 p.m. That magnetic storm has since subsided, and we don't anticipate any other surprises coming up here. But again, when skies are clear, partly cloudy, and we have active solar conditions, it's a good idea to check the sky if you wanted to see that. Now, looking at a couple of the FAA webcams this afternoon, we have a low pressure. The secondary low pressure is going to be developing in the North Pacific south of Kodiak Island, and already got these Harbinger high clouds out ahead of it coming in from the south and southwest. Kodiak City this afternoon, 52 degrees, and we're going to see that low passing well east of Kodiak Island as we go into the day. Wednesday, as it tucks up into the northwest corner of the Gulf and gradually weakens. Yakutat also seeing some high clouds way off on the southern southwest horizon. Yakutat is going to be where initially that atmospheric river focuses that river of moisture in the lower mid-atmosphere, and that's going to bring in some heavier rains during the day, Wednesday into Wednesday night, and then those are going to shift southeastward into the central panhandle. And because of that, the Juneau Weather Service Forecast Office has issued a flood watch from 10 p.m. Wednesday night until 10 a.m. Friday morning, and it focuses on the area of the north central panhandle, including Glacier Bay National Park, Gustavus, Hoonah, Angoon, Juneau, and Sitka. Within this area, and actually from Yakutat down through 2 to as much as 4 inches of rain could fall in that time frame. Factor in any snow in some of the higher elevations of the mountains and the melt and runoff from that. Could expect some of the creeks and smaller rivers to rise to bank full and maybe even experience some minor flooding here later Thursday into early Friday. So just keep that in mind. Also, there'll be some gustier winds along this area of the Gulf Coast. Some of the strongest winds are going to set up right there along area around Cape Suckling westward toward Hinchinbrook entrance. Here are a couple of the precipitation forecasts here during the day, I should say early Wednesday, 4 a.m. Wednesday through 4 a.m. Thursday, and then during the day Thursday. And we see the heavier rain initiates back here towards Seward, area surrounding Prince William Sound, then it shifts eastward and then takes aim in the Yakutat as that atmospheric river points there by Wednesday evening. And then the heavier rainfall will shift southeastward into the central panhandle Wednesday night, late Wednesday night and lingering into the day on Thursday. So that's why that flood watch has been issued for this part of the Panhandle. Otherwise, drier conditions will eventually set up here across the mainland, especially the Seward Peninsula and up to the south slopes there of the Brooks Range and the middle Yukon Valley. Though tomorrow there could be some showers up that way, mixed even with some snow in some of the higher elevations. And again, as I mentioned, the autumnal equinox for the northern hemisphere occurs this year on Friday at 10:50 p.m. Alaska Daylight Time. Beautiful image of the Kenai River with the various trees now beginning to turn golden as we finally are seeing some fall colors across South Central. We also had some patchy frost around the Anchorage area this morning, so we're going to see a better chance of more widespread frost and freezing temperatures over this area of South Central later this week once we get by this low pressure that's going to be impacting the Gulf tomorrow into Thursday. So looking at the weather map, there is a low out here back toward the southeast bearing, secondary low forming now down in this region south of the Alaska Peninsula, and it's going to slide northeastward east of Kodiak Island. Here's the weather map this afternoon. I superimposed the pressure systems and fronts on top of the visible satellite image, and so we have the one low here out over the southeast bearing. As this low pushes up in toward Bristol Bay and weekends, a secondary low will develop south of the Alaska Peninsula tonight and into early Wednesday, and then track east of Kodiak Island on late tonight, early Thursday morning. And a pretty good push of warm, moist air taking aim right along the northeastern Gulf and then into the central Panhandle as we go from later Wednesday into the day Thursday. We have a trough low pressure kind of lingering back up here along the west side of the state, keeping a mix of some rain and snow showers going tonight and again on Wednesday. But here's the main initial low there that just kind of tucks up into the northwestern Gulf with that atmospheric river pointing right into this region here of the Panhandle later Wednesday and Thursday with, as I mentioned, 2 to 4 inches of rain could fall with this system from Yakutat down into the central Panhandle from later Wednesday evening, at least through late Thursday night. And there's another little low that sits here south of the Alaska Peninsula Wednesday afternoon. Behind me comes the next low. This one is actually a little deeper. It's going to bottom out below 980 millibars as it works its way into the western bearing, with this frontal system having, at the very least, some gale force winds with it. But during the Wednesday afternoon, we're going to see some stronger gale force winds here in the northeastern, north central Gulf Coast. There could even be some gusts as high as up near 60 miles an hour, which is low-end storm force winds. So keep that in mind as that frontal band pushes northward along with some of the heavier rain. And by Thursday afternoon, that low will finally kind of weaken and the occluded front push its way in through the Panhandle. The secondary low sitting back that was down over here, just not very strong at all. Little drier conditions on the backside of these systems. Should see some sunshine there through the especially lower Yukon Valley and the Kuskokwim River Basin. And then here's that next low down around 978 millibars just off the Kamchatka coast here Thursday afternoon with an occluded frontal system extending through the central Aleutians. So along this front, expect some gustier, at least gale force winds, and some bands of rain accompanying that. Looking at the temperatures, we expect lows tonight generally in the 40s in the Panhandle. Where skies stay partly cloudy to clear longer, there could be readings dip quickly into 30s early tonight, but clouds will be on the increase from southwest to northeast as we go through late tonight and early Wednesday morning. And then the rains overspread this region, so it's going to keep temperatures down Wednesday afternoon, 50 Anchorage Bowl, 40s Talkeetna, even up toward the Copper River Basin, though not as take a little longer for the rain to work up there. Where there are steadier, moderate to heavier rains, 54 at Yakutat, Sitka, and so temperatures will be confined mainly to the mid-50s at best. Thursday morning lows with the cloud cover around and temperatures are going to stay generally above 40 most areas with the exception of maybe the Copper River Basin. And then Thursday afternoon, things will start to dry out here, especially through the west. That will allow a little drier air to come in around the backside of the low that'll be sitting up here just off the Panhandle coast, but temperatures across the Panhandle Thursday should generally be in the mid to upper 50s, maybe a spot or two flirting with 60. Cooler temperatures in the far north, below freezing along the Brooks Range, south slopes. Otherwise, 30s common everywhere else. And again, if you get any partial or mostly clear skies in this area this time of year. You easily drop below freezing. Wednesday afternoon, highs generally in the 40s throughout the Yukon River Valley and extending back through the Seward Peninsula. Could still be up near 50 at Fairbanks, Eagle, and Fort Yukon. Otherwise, highs struggling to hit 40 at Utqiagvik and Wainwright. And then Thursday morning, lows again below freezing along and just south there of the Brooks Range, including places like Ambler on up toward Bettles. But along the Arctic coast, just above freezing anticipated, and 30s common throughout the Yukon Valley, but generally staying above freezing temperatures. For Thursday afternoon, 30s in the north and 40s along the Yukon River, low mid-40s back toward the Seward Peninsula, and maybe flirting with 50 around Northway. Across the southwest interior, Wednesday morning, we expect lows generally in the lower 40s, lower mid-40s, extending out along the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians. Wednesday afternoon highs be up near 56 at Kodiak City with that low just east of there. And then we expect temperatures lower 50s along the Alaska Peninsula back toward Dutch Harbor. And Thursday morning lows generally in the 30s across the southwest interior, lower mid-40s, the Alaska Peninsula extending back out in through the central Aleutians. And Thursday afternoon highs will generally be again in the Aleutians up through the Alaska Peninsula in the lower 50s at least, maybe 55 or so at Kodiak City, and generally staying in the 40s here back toward Bethel, Anvik, and along the lower Yukon Delta. Quick check of the extended temperature forecast. 6 to 10 day outlook, September 25th through the 29th, almost till the end of the month. Most of the mainland and panhandle near normal temperatures. Maybe a little above normal here, eastern North Slope up along the eastern Arctic coast, but a bit below normal, especially around Kuskokwim, Bristol Bays, in through the Alaska Peninsula. And right now, precipitation is looking to average most areas near normal across much of the mainland, southwest and southeast panhandle, but a little below normal, possibly the middle Yukon Valley north up toward the Alaska range, or up toward the Brooks Range rather.